The holographic document floated between the two delegations like a ghost of false promises. On one side sat the Valkyrian Empire's representatives, their crystalline forms refracting the cold light of the negotiation chamber. On the other side, humanity's ambassadors maintained expressions of careful diplomacy. Kendall adjusted her neural interface, watching the alien script scroll across her vision as the translation algorithms worked overtime. As humanity's chief strategic analyst, she had spent months decoding Valkyrian communication patterns, cultural nuances, and most importantly, their lies. Every clause in this so-called peace treaty was a carefully constructed trap, and she knew it down to her bones. "The terms are most generous," announced the Valkyrian High Mediator, his voice like wind chimes made of glass. "Complete cessation of hostilities, shared resources across contested systems, cultural exchange programs." Roman sat 3 seats down from Kendall, his military uniform crisp despite the 16-hour negotiation session. As Admiral of the Third Fleet, he had seen firsthand what Valkyrian generosity looked like: scorched colonies, harvested populations, and terraformed worlds, stripped of everything useful. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, a tell that only someone who had worked alongside him for 5 years would notice. Kendall noticed. Ambassador Chen, humanity's lead diplomat, smiled warmly. "Your terms are indeed generous, High Mediator. We would be honored to accept this treaty." The Valkyrians' crystalline bodies seemed to brighten with satisfaction. They had won, or so they believed. The peace treaty would give them time to reposition their fleets, infiltrate human systems under the guise of cultural exchange, and access human technology through shared research initiatives. In 3 standard years, they calculated, humanity would be ripe for conquest without firing another shot. What the Valkyrians didn't understand was that humanity had been playing a different game entirely. Kendall, that had cracked their communication codes 8 months ago. Every encrypted transmission, every supposedly secret military dispatch, every private conversation between Valkyrian commanders, humanity had intercepted and decoded it all. She had watched their entire strategy unfold like a holovid, from the initial proposal for peace talks to the planned invasion force already gathering in the Outer Rim. The treaty signing ceremony took place 3 weeks later aboard the neutral station Meridian. Point representatives from a dozen species watched as Ambassador Chen and High Mediator Veltharic pressed their hands to the digital seal, binding their civilizations to peace. Roman attended in full dress uniform, medals gleaming across his chest. Each one represented a battle, a sacrifice, a lesson learned in blood and fire. That Valkyrians probably thought they were decorative. They didn't realize that humanity's military didn't award medals for participation. Every piece of metal on Roman's chest represented a victory against impossible odds. As the ceremony concluded and the dignitaries began their carefully choreographed mingling, Kendall made her way to the observation deck. Earth hung in the viewport, blue and defiant. Roman found her there 10 minutes later. "They think they've won," he said quietly, standing beside her. "They have no idea what's coming," Kendall replied. She pulled up a holoscreen visible only to them, displaying a web of data. 3 years, that's how long they think they need before they strike. 2 years, 7 months, Roman corrected, his intelligence clearly matching hers. "They'll accelerate the timeline when they think we're sufficiently infiltrated." Kendall smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Then we have 2 years and 6 months to be ready." The beauty of humanity's counter-strategy was its simplicity. The Valkyrians expected humans to be honest, to honor the treaty in good faith. They projected their own tactical thinking onto humanity, assuming that a species capable of negotiation must be either naive or weak. They were wrong on both counts. Over the following months, humanity accepted Valkyrian cultural ambassadors with open arms, assigning them to observe and participate in human society. What the aliens didn't realize was that every piece of information they gathered was carefully curated. The technology they were allowed to see was either obsolete or deliberately misleading. The military installations they visited were elaborate facades. Meanwhile, the real work happened in shadows. Kendall coordinated a network of intelligence operations that spanned 40 systems, human agents, many of them volunteers who looked forward to the coming conflict with grim determination. Embedded themselves throughout Valkyrian space, they mapped supply lines, identified command structures, and located the staging grounds for the planned invasion force. Roman, for his part, oversaw the greatest military buildup in human history. New shipyards and hidden asteroid fields churned out vessels incorporating technology the Valkyrians had never seen. Weapons based on quantum entanglement principles that would render Valkyrian shields useless. Propulsion systems that would make human ships faster and more maneuverable than anything in the known galaxy. All of it hidden behind the facade of peaceful cooperation. When the Valkyrian strike force finally moved into position 26 months after the treaty signing, they expected to find humanity unprepared, their defenses compromised by years of infiltration, their fleets scattered and vulnerable. Instead, they found Roman's armada waiting. The Battle of the Terran Threshold lasted 18 hours. Valkyrian commanders, realizing too late that humanity had known about their plans all along. Watched in horror as their carefully positioned invasion force was systematically dismantled, human ships moved with impossible precision, striking at supply vessels and command craft with intimate knowledge of Valkyrian military doctrine, because humanity had been studying that doctrine for 3 years. In the aftermath, with the Valkyrian fleet in ruins and their empire's military capacity crippled, Ambassador Chen opened a channel to Veltharic. The peace treaty was a deception, she said simply, and humanity knew it from the beginning. Veltharic's crystalline form flickered with what humans had learned to recognize as shock. Impossible. You accepted our terms. You welcomed our ambassadors. We learned from you, Kendall interrupted, appearing beside Chen on the transmission. You taught us that in the galaxy, trust is a weapon, so we made you trust in our naivety. Roman stepped into frame, his uniform now bearing one additional medal. You assumed that because we sought peace, we wanted it at any cost. You were wrong. We wanted peace on our terms. And now, High Mediator, you're going to help us achieve it. The new treaty, dictated by humanity to the surviving Valkyrian leadership, was actually genuine. It had to be humanity's reputation as the species that had turned deception against the galaxy's master deceivers would ensure compliance better than any fleet standing. Once more on the observation deck of Meridian Point, Kendall and Roman watched as human ships returned home. Earth still hung in the viewport, still blue, still defiant. Do you think they'll ever understand? Roman asked. Kendall considered the question. Maybe someday they'll realize that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our ability to hope for peace while preparing for war, to extend trust while expecting betrayal, to be simultaneously idealistic and ruthlessly pragmatic. That's what makes us human, Roman agreed. And in the cold depths of space, humanity's message echoed clear to all who would listen. We seek peace, but we will survive. We extend our hand in friendship, but we keep our other hand on our weapons. We hope for the best in others while preparing for their worst, because humanity had learned the hard way that in a universe of deception, the only way to achieve lasting peace was to be better at the game than anyone else. The peace treaty had been a deception, and humanity had won anyway.